Hello, dear sinceres. Apologies for my absence. I haven't been able to make any videos for you this past month as I had many changes and things happening that unfortunately uh, took all the time for me to make videos and bring you videos. I still cannot say that I'm in a place where I can do astrology full time. And I also still have my outside day job and other responsibilities. And sometimes it gets really difficult to make videos and have other things that I wanted to be doing and I wasn't able to. I also have recently changed houses, so I don't really particularly have space ready right now to film. But hopefully next videos I will. And it will really help me if you can make sure you've subscribed to my channel, you pass on the word to your friends, to relatives about my channel, and ask them to subscribe so that I can be in a place very soon where I'm able to put more dedication, energy, and time into bringing more videos to you. And also make sure you press like into the videos that you get to enjoy. So this video will just have my voice, maybe some image, and I'm doing it this very last minute because it's just about to happen. Is the full moon in Scorpio, and depending on where you are, this will be happening on the 15th or the 16th of May. And so this full moon in Scorpio will be a lunar eclipse, actually a full blood lunar eclipse, which is also a supermoon, which means that the moon will be very close to the Earth. And lunar eclipses happen on periods of the full moon when the Earth is between the Sun and the Moon and the Sun are very close to the lunar nodes. We will have the Sun in conjunction with the North Node in Taurus and the Moon in conjunction with the South Node in Scorpio. And the reason why this is a blood moon is because it is full, and that happens usually when there's 3 degrees or less away in terms of conjunction to the nodes. And these periods of full moon are already quite intense, and then add up to a Scorpio and add up to an eclipse. Oh yeah, you have a lot of intensity going, and it will be even more intense, and we may find ourselves and others around us a little bit more reactive, more stressful, more on edge, and sometimes even with a kind of not the best perspective in life, or kind of been feeling a bit low or more negative, or low energy. I personally have this on my first house, so I can feel a little bit my vitality being affected lately. Um, so eclipses can bring many important life changes, endings, and new beginnings, or even crises where things tend to stay rarely the same depending on which house of the chart this is happening or the eclipse is occurring. But for those who have the main important houses in their chart's life, like the first house, the seventh house, even the fourth and the 10th, because these are angular houses, and angular houses are the houses that tend to carry more power or have more weight in our charts. Or if, and I'm talking about the whole house system, but I mean, if you have them in the same modality, so if you have the sun, ascendant, moon in the last 20 to 22 degrees of fixed signs of Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, or Leo signs, and you might see quite significant changes in your life, even things that might be unpredictable. And because this is a lunar eclipse so close to the nodes, and it's a full one, and if you are in an area of the planet that you get to see the full moon eclipse, uh, the full lunar eclipse, then this will affect not only the country or the place where you are, but you may see effects on this lunar eclipse in one of those placements. So if you have it happening in sun, moon, or ascendant close by, and this can last for 6 months or even more. And the best way you can also check how this eclipse may affect your life if you are if you have a certain age, meaning you're not a child, is to think back to 18 years ago when you had the Taurus Scorpio eclipse, solar or lunar, because we had a solar eclipse happening in Taurus during the new moon, and now we're having the lunar eclipse happening. So think about 18 years ago, what changes did you experience around spring that year? So how was it? What things in your life were like type of events that were quite pivotal for you that year? Because you may see either a repetition of that or some related themes around that happening. Also, during these days, it's really good to watch out for overly emotional reactivity, our mood balance, keeping our inner demons in check. And there's also a square of the sun, moon, and the nodes to Saturn. Saturn is squaring them. And so there may be an intensification of crisis and karmic events in our lives. And of course, worldwide, we may actually witness or come to see in the next few months some unforeseen events, some hidden things that we are not seeing right now. Eclipses don't usually allow us to see things with clarity, and usually there is something hidden, especially with kind of Taurus Scorpio axis, where Scorpio is kind of the limelight because of the full moon eclipse happening there. But we can see themes that are connected to our resources, abundance, finances. We may see possibility of disappointments, crisis, debt, and difficulty. And we may have to strike a balance of our own expectations between the abundance that we are seeking and preparing for with the unexpected losses, unexpected crises, or periods of difficulty that also can occur. Because sometimes, for example, you plan to buy, let's say, a bag, and that bag is quite expensive, and you save the money, and you maybe even work the extra time, extra hours to buy the bag. But then your car breaks down, and then that money has to be used for the car. So it's kind of having that balance of making sure that, yeah, plan for the future, your resources, your financial gains and things like that, but also be ready for the unexpected events that sometimes may eat those resources away. And this happens because um, you have Scorpio full moon, really. Checks and balances to get real about life, about people, and what can be really relied upon to strike that balance between the light and the dark, the good and the bad, life and death, optimism and grounding, skepticism, beginnings and endings. All scorpionic themes that are related to the full moon, and is also a great period for us to look into our sexuality, eroticism, our intimacy, our shared resources, to let go of what doesn't serve us, releasing. The moon in Scorpio versus Taurus axis talks very much about our vitality, and not just in a physical body sense. Moon in Scorpio is not necessarily the happiest of moons and can even be more depleting because it is in conjunction with the South Node. And if we think of Taurus, we get the vitality, the food, the resources from Taurus resources. So our wealth is about Taurus. Our even our sense of value and self-esteem. Believe it or not, people don't talk about this very much, but I had this realization not very long time ago how our sense of value, our sense of self-esteem and self-love, which is very Taurian theme, is also so deeply connected to our resources because we tend to attract what we believe we deserve. What we believe that should be kind of our lifestyle, our what we believe that should be our life. And this comes from a sense of self-value and self-esteem. And I don't mean this in narcissistic terms because I don't consider narcissism a way of self-loving, but quite of compensation for the lack of it, really. Real self-love and real self-esteem has a good balance between what really is appropriate for our own well-being, for our own sense of true happiness. And people with genuine self-esteem, they don't usually act in narcissistic ways because they don't really need the validation through the external things, but rather they have a good sense of what really is appropriate for them at a certain time in life, and for their own well-being. And so we tend to create our lives according to what we believe we are worthy of. If you think of people who have low self-esteem, they usually tend to reject good things in life because they don't think they're worthy of it. Have you kind of heard of those people when happiness knocks on their door? It seems too good to be true and they tend to kind of reject it because they feel more comfortable with what's familiar. Anyway, I digress here. So, talking again about our Taurian Scorpio axis. So then on the other side of Taurus, what we'll find is Scorpio. And Scorpio is talking about the sharing and spreading of all of the resources we kind of gain with Taurus. Is where we merge those resources with our intimate partner with whom we create a family, for example. And usually that family will feed on those shared resources between us and our partner. And also talks about energy. It talks about putting our money in the bank, putting our finances in the bank, our debts, payment of taxes, which again has our resources being eaten away. Is somehow like a way of draining system, of solar system as well, where somehow things get flushed away and can be kind of pushed away from us. So Scorpio has all these kind of characteristics. It also, from an energetic point of view, talks about sharing our own sexual energy, our erotic energy, with another person. So we are again spreading something that is a resource for our physical body or energetic bodies. And many tantric people are well aware of how potent and powerful sexual energy can be, and that you can use that in a way that can empower or can be wasted. And if you use it in a powerful way, you can use it in such creative capacity that you can make amazing miracles, amazing things, create amazing inventions, art, things that are beyond our common daily life and are considered genius works. So this is an example of how we can use resources and share those resources with others, merge those resources with others, and we can have the option of either wasting them or transforming them, transmuting them to another level where this becomes more luminous, more powerful, more potent, because Scorpio is a sign of transformation. And so as we gain more wisdom and we come out the other side of darkness, of loss, of death, of endings, which Scorpio also represents, reaching this higher level where we've transformed, we transmuted our energies, our vitality, we come out much more wiser, more capable of dealing with demons, where demons, inner demons, don't have the power to take that vitality, that energy from us anymore, because we learned how to deal with them. And transforming everything to a much higher, superior level of energy is almost like you've created a sort of a star, so to speak, or a diamond, or you've transformed things into such level of energy that that energy becomes kind of feeding you even more on a higher level than Taurus even does. And so I'm getting quite esoteric here. But yeah, now speaking about the ruler of Scorpio, Mars, this planet is in a water sign of Pisces, conjuncting Neptune. And so this full moon and lunar eclipse as well will be quite an emotional one, where we can feel emotionally overwhelmed, flooded, and even confused and unclear about our emotions or emotions of others that we may be observing and not even notice. And we may also feel tempted to try to find a kind of escapism to that overwhelm, even to be impulsive, because Mars is impulsive and in a sign of Pisces. Pisces, which on a shadow side can represent addiction, can represent vices, can represent all sorts of kind of shadowy type of things that we may indulge in secretly. So Mars there can have kind of impulsive moments to just kind of engage into those things again. So it's really good if we instead we connect to the higher energies of Neptune and Pisces, which is God, divine intelligence. We engage with those higher energies, we meditate, we do some spiritual practice, and we replace those impulses. We stop for a moment, we replace those impulses with something healthy and something more elevated, which also is related to the Pisces and to the Mars being conjunction to Neptune. And going to world events, we are also seeing already the financial crisis and food shortages, which were already pre-announced by the Saturn squared Uranus. Not just happened, and happened for a while, especially during last year, but can be intensified by this Scorpio lunar eclipse, especially in the areas where this eclipse is visible. And Moon in Scorpio with the South Node also can allude to murky, muddy things, secrets, things that may be being done behind our backs, to betrayal, to purging, things related to toxic waste, because Scorpio is related to a sewer system. So we can see some kind of things that are polluting, that are kind of dirty, murky, happening. Also criminality banking, money laundering, corruption, trafficking, rottenness. And because the moon also represents the public, it may be possible that some of that may come to light in the next few weeks, months, that the public may come to discover about their leaders, about the government, because Saturn, the government, is squaring the moon and the sun and the nodes in this case. So unfortunately, this kind of eclipse in Scorpio, lunar eclipse in Scorpio, is not the biggest pronouncement of good news or easiest of times. But we also have Jupiter that just entered Aries and left Pisces, and it is on a 0 degree of Aries while this eclipse, lunar eclipse, will be occurring, which is also related to the world axis. And so the world axis, when you have 0 degrees of Aries, Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn, these are kind of the cross sign. So the world axis, almost if you think of if you look at the chart, the astrological chart, and you start by having Aries sign starting the chart, you will see that the angular houses will fall onto Aries, and then Cancer, and then Libra, and then Capricorn. So these are like the cross of the chart, but in this case, it's like the cross of the world, so to speak, in astrological terms. And any planets that tend to fall onto 0 degrees of these axis, of this world axis, they will tend to have quite a huge role, well, whether worldwide or whether in your personal chart, could mean that those planets could attract you into some kind of important role in the world somehow, where you can influence events or influence things, and you may not even have to necessarily be famous for it, but somehow your role matters there, especially if it falls on planets like your sun or your moon or your rising. Those are usually the most important ones, but even planets like Saturn or Jupiter can be important, and especially when we have this happening globally, then this can mark a major shift somehow, or could even indicate some major events in our social spheres, our worldwide spheres. And so also we have a semi-square of Saturn to the world axis. Not Saturn, sorry, apologies. We have a semi-square of Uranus as well to the world axis, which is not something where we have Jupiter and Uranus having kind of a major aspects to the world axis. It's not something that occurs frequently. Even though semi-square is not considered a major aspect, it's still quite an important one. And it's the semi-square aspect usually appeals to avoidance of something, or feeling like something that we committed to wasn't quite achieved, or even to avoiding seeing things that are there but we try to ignore them, and so we end up not learning and growing from those issues, and having to later to deal with those issues in a much worse level than that situation, having to deal with it in a much later date. So also Jupiter in Aries is really good for us in terms of having that confidence. It can bring us some spiritual insight and a sense of expansion to another level where we can dare, be bold, take risks, and sometimes sometimes even take bold risks and not measure so much the consequences of those risks. But it can also lead us to be adventurous, be courageous, fight for what is right, and get a sense that life is meant to be lived to the max. And we want to kind of drink that juiciness of life, and we don't want to miss out on anything. We want to expand, and we get to also be spiritual heroes that take initiative, pioneers, trailblazers. We just have to be a little bit more careful, because the shadowy side of a Jupiter in Aries is that we can not only take risks that can be a little bit on the side of the optimism, where we don't measure consequences, but also it can also bring us a little bit of selfish side as well, where we are so absorbed and focused on our own selves that we can sometimes ignore everyone else around us and have no consideration at all for how our actions and our behavior is affecting the world around us. So these are things also to be aware with the Jupiter in Aries, either for influencing the energy influencing us, or even if you have it on your natal chart. And Jupiter is also sextiling Mercury, which can bring a sense of optimism, positivity, confidence, and to thinking expansively, thinking big. With Mercury in Gemini, our mind might be racing with ideas, making all sorts of connections between things and seeing pathways towards our plans and goals. And because Jupiter is sextiling it, we then can have a higher connection to higher spheres, to God, to higher mind ideas, or even give us a little bit of an intuitive mental perspective. And so just coming to an end, during this lunar eclipse, it's good for you to take time for reflection, to review your goals and your resources. Find where action is needed so you can be more expansive. But try to do so in a really realistic and practical way, taking into account potential difficulties that might come into your life and how you can go around them. Prepare yourself to win, but be prepared also for losses, and to not to quit, but analyze if the path you are on is still useful for you, if the things that are in your life are still useful for you, if they are still worth pursuing, and what necessary changes are needed. What do you need to let go? What do you need to give up on, and just allow it to go away from your life? And take a pause before reacting to something. Meditate, practice observing your emotions, your thoughts, and make decisions from your heart center when you are calm. Observe the chaos around you, but don't engage with it. And if you have to engage with it, then try to keep that engagement up to a minimum. Also, I recommend that during eclipses, whether they're solar or lunar, be quite observant of what events transpire, especially in the house where you have this eclipse happening. What you see, any connections to events happening in that house, that you have the eclipse happening in your chart, and write it down on a diary, because when you get any transits or any repetition of this eclipse in a few years' time, whether 18 years or about 8-9 years, when it's in reverse, or even when we get to have another solar lunar eclipse when we are in the sign of Scorpio, where they will reverse. We'll have a new moon Scorpio and a solar eclipse in Taurus. So you can see what events transpired and how it happened, and you can then make a kind of a pattern reading of those, so you know what to expect when they happen next, or how the events in your life get triggered with transits. And so I've done a half an hour video, which I don't think I normally do so long, but also to compensate for not having done them in such a long time. But this is all I had to say for the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. I hope that it helped, and perhaps next time I hope to join my image and my face to my voice. But I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments or questions or anything you want to put down in the comments, feel free, and please remember to press like, share this video with your friends, and visit my website if you want to know more about the readings and consultations I'm doing for astrology readings, all types of astrology readings I have there. I also have some free gifts for those of you who subscribe to my website. I'll definitely be bringing more videos soon, and please be forgiving of me if I haven't done so far, but hopefully I will be more consistent and regular from now on. I hope to see you soon. Take care and have a good lunar moon eclipse. Well, have a nice lunar eclipse. Of course, it's moon because it's lunar, but yeah, have a nice lunar eclipse. Bye.